Hello, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time tuning in, hi, my name is Emma, and this channel is dedicated to talking about finance and my debt journey at being $35,000 in debt at the age of 30. So today's video, I kind of want to go over how much I spent in 2019. So as I've talked about in a previous video, my total salary before taxes is about $89,000, but I did receive a raise last year as well as a one-time bonus. So when I add all of that together, my total pre-tax amount that I received last year was about $95,000. So in this video, I'm going to break down what I spent and basically use this information to make my budget for 2020. So let's get started.
All right, so we are going to start by using mint.com to review what I spent from January of 2019 until December of 2019. So Mint is a free website that you can use to link all of your bank accounts, credit card accounts, loans, bills, basically almost anything that you pay on, you can put into Mint and it will calculate all of your spending for you. So this is not something that I did. I'm pulling all of this information straight from Mint. There are a few things about Mint that I don't necessarily understand why it calculates the way that it does. For instance, sometimes I've noticed with credit card payments, it counts it as an expense instead of being a credit or a transfer. So, for instance, if I buy something, I have found that it will charge me when I buy it on my credit card as an expense. And then when I pay that card off, it charges me again as another expense when that second charge should really be a transfer. But I think I've figured that out now and have fixed it for going into 2020. So I'm hoping that next year's budget will be 100% accurate, but I still think this budget is probably right. The only month here that is glaring is September, where it's trying to say that I spent $14,000 in September. And when I do the math, it does make sense. But I think the reason September was so high was because I did some balance transfers in September. So I think those are showing on here. So you can see my spending has been very high. We're looking at $5,700 in January, $5,000 in February, $6,000 in March. My lowest month was July, and that was at $3,377, as well as August. So these 2 months, I did really well with keeping my spending in track. I spent less than what I made. I did a really, really good job these 2 months. The rest of the year, I can't say that. But I know I was really watching my money in July and August. September rolls around and I spent a bunch of money, but I also did some balance transfers. So I think that's why it's saying I spent $14,000. October, $5,000, $6,000, $5,000. So these are all very real numbers of what I spent. Now, the other thing I like that Mint does is they'll break it out for you. They'll tell you the month that you spent the most, the month you spent the least, your greatest change, and your average. So my average expenditure was about $6,000 per month, and I think that that's probably right. So that is definitely more than I make. If you look at my total expenditures down here, let's expand this so we can see all the months. This is all my expenditures that was in that table above, and my total spending was $7,843.67. So what I've done is clicked on this export to CSV, which will export all of your transactions into an Excel file. So I've done that, so I'm going to pull that up. So I calculated my total expenditures that were not my bills. So I know that I had to pay a mortgage. I was paying for my car. I was also paying for a loan that is not on here. So these are my what are referred to as sinking costs. I believe that's what Dave Ramsey refers to these as. So these are basically anything I spent money on that was not a bill or some kind of loan payment or car payment. This is basically all of my discretionary income and what I spent it on for all of 2019. So, as you can see, my total expenditures for last year was over $18,000 in just stuff. So, you can see my two biggest categories here were cosmetics and services. So, that's going to Sephora, going to Ulta, getting my hair done, getting my nails done, things like that. And also clothes and shoes. I spent almost $4,000 on clothes and shoes, which I have a business casual dress at work, so I have no need to go buy a bunch of suits or fancy clothes for work. Most of the clothes that I wear on the weekend or at home, I can wear to work. So I have no idea why I felt the need to spend almost $4,000 on clothes last year. Collectibles are, yeah, I honestly can't even tell you which collectibles those are that I spent over $500 on. Entertainment was only $253, and entertainment is things like going to the movies or maybe a show. I mean, I don't really do that often. So the $253 for a whole year, I'm okay with that. Food expenses. So the food expenses that are counted on here as being $1,000. That's really not high when you consider it for the entire year. But my living situation was a little bit different for part of 2019, where I had a family member living with me and they were buying the groceries for the house because they weren't paying me rent. So that situation has changed. So my food budget will go way up for 2020. So this is just what I spent on food last year. Again, like I said, I had someone else providing groceries for me last year in lieu of rent. Health and well-being is any kind of health service that wasn't covered by my health savings account or things like therapy, but I don't believe I went in 2019, or yoga and mental well-being. So I spent about $1,000 on that. Hobby. So I do have a few hobbies that I partake in. So I spent about $1,000 last year on hobby supplies, having to go to like the craft store and buy raw materials to make things. So for me, I think $1,000 on hobby for the whole year isn't too bad. But when you have as much debt as I do, you kind of have to decide that you're going to put your hobbies to the side or find a free hobby. I spent $747 on home repair last year, which is not bad. Most of that went towards one of my garage springs breaking, so I had to pay $250 to repair that. And then the remaining part of that is just things that I've bought at Home Depot for fixing up the house or cleaning things up that are starting to get worn. I have $630 on housewares, so that's anything like towels, sheets, bedding, blankets, furniture, stuff for around the house, which I don't need anything, so really shouldn't have bought anything last year, but I did. Spent $97 on various parking, which that's for the whole year. I don't really go anywhere. I'm a homebody, so I'm not surprised that this is very low. I spent $130 on my pet, which I have a dog, and they only cost me between their annual vet visit, their food, and their flea and tick medicine and their heartworm pills, it's really not expensive. I feel like I probably did spend a little bit more than this, though. I feel like 130 is pretty low, so I think some of my transactions may not have shown up. So I will probably get a better estimate in 2020 because I know her dog food alone is $80 a bag, but I only buy it every 3 months. So her expenditure is probably closer to 500. The other thing I want to call out on here is that I spent $700 at Starbucks last year, which for some people that doesn't seem like that much, but when you go to Starbucks every single day and get a $5 coffee, it adds up really quickly. I was spending over $100 a month at Starbucks on caffeine that I shouldn't even be drinking because it exacerbates my anxiety. So I gave up caffeine and am doing fine and also saving $5 every day. So that's a change I've already made. This other category was basically just any miscellaneous thing that I couldn't think of where to put it. I did go on a vacation last year. I turned 30, so I wanted to go on a big vacation. So I spent $1,000 on airfare last year. That was for 2 tickets. That wasn't just one. But still, I spent $1,000 on a vacation that I really couldn't afford. But I made the excuse that, oh, I'm turning 30, so I want to make it this big thing. And I'm gonna force, 15 of my friends to do it with me. So in retrospect, I shouldn't have taken that vacation. I should have postponed it because that's, $1,000 alone just on the airfare. So that's money that I I don't regret going, but I wish I had that $1,000 to put towards debt because I could have gone next year instead. Another tab on here was Amazon, which I no longer have my Prime membership, so I'm hoping that deters me from buying things on Amazon that I don't really need. But for the total for the year was $756, and that did include the membership price of, I think it's up to almost like $150 now, which when I signed up for it, it was a student account, and I only had to pay for, I think, $50 a year to use Amazon. And now that I'm obviously no longer a student, haven't been for a while, I have to pay full price. So if you're a student, take full advantage of discounts on anything and everything. The other thing I paid for last year was a car repair. I paid $974 because they stripped the screws on my oil pan. So they had to replace the whole thing. So that was fun. I still think I got ripped off on that because I've only ever had my car serviced at the dealer, which I probably will no longer be taking it to the dealer. I'll be taking it to a local car repair shop because I know that dealers always charge more, but this is the first time I feel like I've been actively taken advantage of, so I will no longer be going to the dealer for my car repair bills. And my very last one is charity. I did donate $200 to charity last year. So all in all, $18,000. There are definitely a lot of things here. I mean, if I look at just between the clothes and shoes and the cosmetics, that would pay for 2/3 of one of my credit cards right now. And that's honestly probably where most of that debt on that credit card is from. It's from making purchases like clothes and shoes, cosmetics and services, and things like that. So these are all purchases that would fall under the want category and not the need category, with the exception of my dog and the car repair. Those are two things, well, and food. So fine, three things. We've got pets, food, and car. Those are three things that you don't need to pay for, and I really shouldn't have been paying for. So this is basically how much I owe in credit card debt was from this. So this right here is why I still owe about $18,000 in credit cards because I have two credit cards with $9,000 each on them. This is why. So if you have never sat down and gone through your finances like this, I highly recommend doing it. Again, I personally, let's go back to it. Wrong one. Where's it at? Here it is. I personally recommend using Mint. If you've never used any kind of budgeting software, I think it can be really helpful. So again, I mean, looking at the numbers, it makes sense. I spent more than I would have brought in after taxes, but in case you're curious, I can also sort this by category. So let's do by category. And this tells me my total expenditures in 2019 for everything. So, I spent $17,000 on bills and utilities last year. I spent $11,000 on financial. I spent $10,000 on auto and transport, so that's my car payment as well as my gas. Food and dining, I spent $5,749, which that would be groceries and other food. Oh, that's interesting. So apparently when I pulled it, it didn't pull it accurately. So I did spend $5,000 on food last year. That's a lot. I could definitely spend a lot less. Health and fitness is my gym membership, and I was doing personal training last year. And then other are just things that I didn't categorize. Shopping was the budget that I just showed you. So it doesn't match up perfectly, but it's pretty close. So I spent, again, about $19,000 on stuff I didn't need. So this piece of the pie is money I spent that I didn't need to, as well as this food and dining. I can definitely make this smaller. And probably this other. So these are based on how I categorize purchases. And we can go down and they're broken out a little bit more. So this is saying I spent about $300 on pets, which would be probably more accurate. $400 on entertainment, business services. I have $600 on categorized, $1,000 of gifts and donations. So, I mean, it doesn't match up perfectly with what I pulled and exported, but I think, again, that's just from my lack of being able to use Mint efficiently. So I plan on using Mint in 2020 to do my budgeting, and I will actually go in and check it every month to make sure that I'm hitting my budgets like I should. So I'll make a future video going over Mint in more detail. The point of this video was not to show you Mint, it was to show what I spent my money on last year and why I still have $18,000 of credit card debt, and I think I've sufficiently done that. So thanks so much for tuning in. I will be going into setting up my budget for 2020 in my next video, which will be out later this week. If you like these videos, please consider liking and subscribing. It would really help my channel to grow. And for my 2 subscribers that YouTube claims I have, thank you for subscribing. Let me know in the comments below if this is information that's helpful to you or if I can provide this in a different way that would be more interesting for you to watch.